Well, we are live. At the moment, it's Terry and Ammon's Bogus Hangout, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. I don't know where Bill is, I don't know where Jen is, but I'm sure they will jump in when they can. But here is a man I do recognise. Hello, Jason. Long time no see, and nice to see you. Oh, and there's Bill as well. Hey, Bill.
Hello.
How you doing?
This Hangout program is frustrating. I had to download a plugin to get it to run today. I've been running it for months without the plugin, I guess.
It's weird, isn't it? That Chrome seems to really struggle sometimes. Mind you, so does Firefox. It just seems like they're always updating the software at the back end, and that somehow that puts the browser cache out of sync with the latest version of the software, and yeah, it doesn't seem to work very nicely at all.
Right, I'm running it on Firefox, and it's like the first time I've ever run the program on Firefox. So,
Yeah.
Come on.
It's certainly the way it goes. I will put the live link for this event in the chat in a little while, but let's kick off in the traditional fashion. But Terry was in first this week, so Terry, what have you been up to this week?
Oh, you know, the usual, doing a bit of SEO work, some cleanup on a couple of sites. Now I've got a new person I'm working with. I'm doing basically looking at all their online marketing, e-commerce, what I like to do, so interesting.
Yeah, you do like the sort of general practice style, don't you, where you can get involved in lots of different
I'm never bored. I'm never bored, always learning.
Yeah, it's got to be the way. Bill, what have you been up to this week? Apart from trying to get into Hangouts.
It sounds like I've had a similar week to Terry's. I've been doing some site audits. I just got a email asking me to look at a site to come up with a list of things I can tell our salesperson what might be improved on the site, which is the old half-an-hour rundown drill. Let's find everything wrong with the site I can. It's like fishing out of a rain barrel sometimes.
Yes.
Or a dump truck.
This week I've been doing some of the same stuff. I've had a couple of big jobs on. One was an emergencies job, so I had to do an emergency audit and quickly try and find out, you know, what was going on. It isn't a client I've had a long lead up with, so they just literally dropped in rankings. So we need to do a pretty, you know, complete site audit to find out what's going on. The other one was a site audit for a new client. And that involved, of course, looking at the competitors as well. And I like to do a really thorough audit of the competitors, you know, what their strengths are. So you don't bother even starting to compete on the thing that, you know, you're going to have to invest years into to overtake them on. Yeah, it does get annoying, especially one of the clients I've taken on recently is in the real estate business, and of course they wanted to look at some of the big real estate sites. And that meant I had to run a crawler over 6 sites that each have over 10 million pages indexed in Google. Oh. Yeah. Fun. Jason, your first visit with us here, well overdue.
How are you, Eamon? How are you, Bill? Hi, guys. How are you? Very kind of you to invite me along, and a pleasure to be here.
Well, you're what we call an old hand in SEO.
Maybe I'm just old.
Well, there is that too, but we're all fit in that bill. You know. we're none of us getting any younger.
Yeah, but my old grandfather had a saying: compared to the alternatives, I take old age every time.
Yeah. Yeah, my dad was sort of on the fence about it a bit. He said, if you've got a realistic choice, don't grow old.
Yeah. I think your dad was a wise man.
Yeah, he was. But what have you been up to this week?
Mate, as little as possible. My general goals are to do as little as I can, and rarely do I succeed in that. But I keep striving for laziness, and I'm working most of the time now, just trying to launch this TDM product that I've been working on for a number of years, and dealing with the customers, the trials and tribulations of real life, you know.
Yes, yes. I mean, this is you sort of got into the domain space, just as a lot of other people have sort of got out of it as well.
Yeah, well, I suppose the difference is that 4 years or so ago, I had a bit of a, my world turned upside down, and I had to have a look at myself and things, and to say what's going to be the next thing in whatever way it's going to be, and it ended up being, well, if I'm going to play with domains, let's make sure that I play with every single one of them that ever existed. So we're playing with about 800-900 million of them, and yeah, it's interesting. It's good fun.
It is indeed. David, nice to see you. You're muted at the moment. What was that you were just saying?
I was just saying, how many domains did he say he has? I'm sorry. There were 6 zeros, right?
Yeah.
There was a few. There was a few there. More than the average.
Okay. Wow. I don't even know where to begin now. Damn it. Yeah.
Jason, in case you don't know, has always been the very modest kind who likes to do things small.
Clearly. I have a few domains. You want some? I mean, they won't really add to your list much, but I mean, I guess everything counts.
I'll be honest, I'm okay at the moment. But I never say never.
Wow. No, getting back, what have I been working on? I'm playing around with some chat software that we have on our website, my company's website, and some client websites, and experimenting with the idea of using UTM-encoded URLs to send custom messages on the chat side, and how we can kind of play, social media campaigns and other campaigns in a way that not only are you be able to track where they came from, but also send really highly targeted chat messages to kind of open the conversation with the visitor, and then also be able to see the difference that those make in your goal conversion rates on pages, and how that's playing around. And so far, it's looking pretty impressive for what you can do, and the role that just a targeted automated intro message makes in getting people into a chat, and then how much a chat really does affect, with a live operator, really does affect the outcome of sales and conversions. It's pretty amazing.
It is one of those things that the web is a very faceless medium a lot of the time, and almost anything you can ever do to reduce that has an immediate effect. I mean, the very simplest things, like on a website, on the About page, put pictures of the guy who owns the company, the guy who runs some of the staff. You'll be amazed at the difference it makes seeing the people behind the company.
Well, and not the clip art pictures, the purchase pictures, but it's funny. It's like if you make your message not sound so generic, you can get past the Turing test aspect of it, where the person doesn't believe that they're actually talking to a live person. And you can use that personalization and customization, especially when you know where they're coming from or what they actually clicked on to get there, to really make a highly targeted, opening message to them, and the effect that has in leading to an actual conversation and then a goal conversion down the road. So I'm hoping to put out a white paper with Olark, which is the live chat software that I prefer, in the coming days. But it's some good stuff.
Cool. It is something a lot of companies really struggle with, is getting their social media right. I do think most of them miss the entire point. We don't need social media as another place to drop links, to talk. There are, the internet is huge. You can publish almost anywhere on it. Another place to publish wasn't what you needed. The most important thing, the most unique thing about social media is it's your chance to listen to other people, and that's something you can't do as effectively anywhere else. Being able to tie that in, to be able to filter and listen for specific things and then get to that specific conversation and join in, that is absolutely the kind of tools that really companies should be looking at with social media. And I don't mean automated necessarily, because a lot of automation goes very wrong very quickly, and that's always the great thing about automation. Once it goes wrong with the speed and continual dynamism of automation. It goes wrong on scale. Yeah, not good. Bill, I mean, you've been chugging around social media. Well, I mean, we all have, but is it still the area people really try and just use as another link drop place, when that's the worst thing to do with it?
The first website I really worked on promoted. The guy who owned the site preferred to talk to people on the phone because he tended to have much better conversion rates when he could talk to the people. And we tried to write down all the questions he would get asked by people on a notepad and answer those on the website, but still he preferred to talk to people. I'm not quite sure that a tweet response is the same as a phone conversation to most people. I don't think it would have been to him, but we didn't have Twitter back then. It would have been interesting, but more from an academic stance than from an actual sales stance. And you can't spend those academic citations anywhere.
But one thing that I have seen work, and work brilliantly, is where somebody was, talking about something in Twitter, and they got a DM, a direct message from the CEO of that company, phone me with their number. That is fantastic, and that's exactly that kind of connection, and that ability to turn it into an actual conversation face to face sticks with people. It really does.
Well, I mean, it reminds me of a conversation I had this morning with a company that they buy like old data centers, like all the equipment that you're outsourced, trying to get rid of. So they buy that equipment, and that's their business. When we were talking about their SEO strategy, because they had worked with an SEO company that was doing like the normal, backlinks and keywords and phrases and all that stuff, and it was doing what it needs to do, sort of. But the problem was that they still had a low conversion rate. I said, okay, well, look at your website. If a person came into your store, like if you literally had a storefront and a person came in, your website should treat them just like they walked in your store. Like you greet them. How can I help you? Why they're coming in the store. Start talking to them about why they're coming to the store, and guiding the process along. Instead of slapping words in there because you're trying to score higher on the search engine rankings pages. And it's I think I like where Google has gone in the last few years, because I feel like for the 5 or 10 years before that, we got away from the internet as an extension of your actual brick and mortar business. And I feel like maybe this is me being idealistic, but the internet and Google is coming back to that concept of you as a business owner treat the person on the other end like an actual customer that's walking to your store.
Yeah.
And there's a reward to that. It's a higher conversion rate. It's more successfulness. But that human part of it has seemed to go missing for so long.
Always, right from the start, it has been the thing. At first, the internet was adopted by a lot of people who weren't great with humans. There were a lot of geeky people who were semi-autistic, and keeping things at arm's reach was kind of an advantage. In the 90s, you would certainly say the internet wasn't very humanistic. But over the years, as more and more people have come on, it has got to be more and more about the personal connection, about the face-to-face connection. We're now used to having hangouts like this where we can all talk face-to-face with real people and have genuine conversations. We love, admittedly, we are a biased crowd. We are mostly, G+ users, and we like more in-depth conversation than some people out there. There's a lot of people who just didn't get G+, and it is different. It has got its own style. But I do think the connection is all important. If you just want to drop links and move, it doesn't matter what platform you're going to use. It's never going to really work, because at the end of the day, you're dealing with people, and if you don't follow things just to be spammed with links, the chances are neither does anybody else. So you're acting like they do, and it isn't going to work.
Yeah, I mean, like I feel like I should make it a T-shirt because I use it so often. But the idea that the algorithm isn't buying; it's the person behind the search that's the one that's actually buying. I need to get that into a nice T-shirt tagline, but it's that idea that you got to stop playing for the algorithm and play for the person.
Yep.
Hey, David, question. Did you do the automation on the live chat because the people who are supposed to answer it aren't so good at answering it? Or even monitoring it?
So the automation is there because we know that, for example, only a certain percentage of people will respond. So you can have the chat open, and the rule, so you can set up rules in OLARC. For example, after a person has visited 3 pages, send them an automated hey, how can we help you? Or you have the option of actually seeing all the people live that are currently on your website and sending them an unsolicited message. So the idea being that we can send targeted messages as if we were a live chat operator, to just kind of, as opposed to the live chat operator just basically copying and pasting the same message, and maybe 1 out of 10 people would respond. This way it does that for you, and then if they respond back, then you know where this conversation started.
Right. Also, if you're going 2 or 3 pages, that's actually when a lot of people tend to bounce as well.
Exactly.
So you're catching them before they bounce, where you can maybe get an email or something out of them.
Exactly. You're catching them before they bounce, and you're coming in as, I know why you're on this page. You're on this page for a reason. These are the reasons why you're generally on this page. How can I help you, knowing that these are this is why you're probably here already?
Yeah, the one we use, I can see the pages that they were on and kind of tell what they're trying to do on the site, because we only have 3 or 4 products, right? So they're in one of 4.
It's one of 4 things. Yeah, OLARC is the same way. I can see the history of them as they go through the website, and then what page they're currently on, and if I send them a link, whether they click the link. But it's the targeted messages in the beginning are kind of like an icebreaker, which, as opposed to having the live chat operator have to continually be trying to initiate or waiting for the person to initiate, the live chat just does it. These targeted rules do it for you.
Right. And then if they respond to the automation, is that when the operator, your live person, comes in?
Exactly. Yep.
Okay.
It hands off.
What was the program you're using?
OLARC, OLARK.
Thanks.
Yep. Yeah, it hands off right to the live chat operator at that point. It's basically you sending them a welcome message.
Yeah. I got a business where their best conversions happen on the telephone. Mm-hmm. In other words, we don't want them to fill out a form. We'd actually prefer that they call. Hard to track, but I don't care about tracking it. They get sales. They only get sales from one place, so don't have to worry as much about tracking.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
It's one of those ones. I'm reluctant about some of these sites that use, I get a pop-up chat box. Hang on, I'm a pretty competent user of the internet. If I want to ask you a question, believe me, you will not stop me. If I haven't, I don't want you bugging me. It's a bit like when you're just looking around a big store and then the salesman comes over. Can I help you? And he's on commission. He's on commission. And sometimes I do. I'm too British to actually do it, but I do sometimes want to. Yes, you can leave me alone for long enough to take my time. Thank you.
But see, for every one of you, I think there's 10 sheeple that need help. That are just like wandering around aimlessly.
Yeah.
And that's kind of part of it. I mean, I think I have one set up on this page, if you guys want to, critique what I'm doing, but yeah, it's
lose them anyhow. I'm not much worried about pissing someone off that I'm probably going to lose in the next click anyhow, so no sweat.
We use talk to, and like we don't want to initiate conversation because we have enough people that are like trying to like talk to us and like, what's wrong with my thing? Well, we're upgrading our server and we're going through a major overhaul of our tools. Like, we don't want to initiate that at all.
Yeah.
Disconnect
the phones and shut down the email.
Yeah.
This is one of the areas that I'm really looking forward to, because this is one of the first areas that, all this research into AI chatbots, this is where it's first going to hit. I must admit, David, you're probably in the last stage at which I would ever consider going into this, because at the moment there's so much budget in some of the big companies in this direction that I'm kind of thinking, you've got 2 years to make your money, and then forget it, it's game over. One of those big players is there, and you're over. But that's often exciting, and seeing how long you can. It's like surfing, isn't it? Sometimes, there's this huge ass wave, and you've got to just ride the front of it and stay up as long as you can.
I don't own Olark or work for them. It's just software that we use that we found that we like, and we've been using for lots of our clients. But yeah, I mean, for example, I'm surprised that Google, hasn't built in like a Hangout chat, for this. Because
they did actually. They were doing some testing on something for local businesses. Maybe 2 years ago or something. But yeah. I think it never got out of beta.
I think they let a few people try it out, and it never really worked. And it was kind of like helpouts, but helpouts plus Google Chat. And you could embed it in your website and go from there. And it made complete sense to me. But yeah, it never got off the ground.
I don't think Hangouts has ever been a polished enough product yet. I mean, look at this. We're on our 70th episode. Bill still has to swap browsers today to get into the Hangout he does every single week. Hangouts still is buggy. We've all had issues with them. The more shows you do, the more often you come across those bugs. I would say it's about 1 in 10, at least, Hangouts where there is at least one issue goes wrong. Sometimes it's only the comment tracker's not working, and when that happens, I consider that a win. That's a pretty minor bug as they go. But getting all the guests in, or one guest, keeps disconnecting, that happens. What, 1 in 3?
Or not having a start button.
And Google officially announced today that they were getting rid of Hangouts. They're gone. They're going to be replaced by Allo.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wait, say that again? They're sunsetting Hangouts?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What? And I was just about to say they outlasted Blab. Go figure.
During I/O, they released their two new chat applications, and Allo was their video one, and the writing was on the wall if they could make it do what Hangouts was always meant to do. We'll see if it does. We'll see if it does or not.
Okay, so this is the thing that I was confused about with Allo. Like, it seemed like it was very much tied into someone's phone, where, like, there's quite a lot of us, globally or wherever, that have survived not having a phone through the use of like the Google number or sacred Google number. I have a phone now. I'm a big girl because I have a job and I can have a phone. But like for all those other people, like are they doing away with Google Talk?
Eventually, almost certainly. Which it's not the first change.
They haven't come out with Allo yet, so we don't even know that.
Okay.
I'll be somewhat surprised in the short term if the functionality of Hangouts doesn't remain through YouTube, where you can set up a live chat and invite people in. I think YouTube will keep that for a little while, but we'll have to wait and see.
I would say that Hangouts were probably the boon to YouTube. I've been working on there for a long time, Ammon, and one of the things noticed right away was after Hangouts were introduced, the average amount of time that people were spending watching something almost doubled. So I think it's pushing their minutes way up, because people will sit and, watch something like this for 90 minutes if they're interested, right?
Yeah, you said interested, but that doesn't seem like the right word if they're going to sit for 90 minutes and watch video on YouTube. Yeah, that sounds like they have a different problem.
This can be interesting and entertaining at the same time. I agree with you. I mean, I've seen SEO Hangouts that I laugh because they're not entertaining. They're a bunch of people blabbering about SEO, but it goes in one ear and out the other because it's not entertaining. It's just mouths moving.
Well, it's nice to have on like while you're working. If you're someone that works online, it's great to have other people working online in the background.
Yeah, but that doesn't actually make any money for YouTube because you're not watching or clicking on advertisements.
Yeah.
Oh no, if you look at when YouTube started to make money, it was after Hangouts were in.
As you know, I watch a lot of the game streams and things like that. I watch a lot of how-to videos. The how-tos struggle if they're over 20 minutes. They really do. There is this magic sort of 10 to 20 minute mark, which is about the limit most people will have to spend on a single video. And to be honest, I found much the same with podcasts. Any podcast that goes much past 20 minutes, you'll find has a really sudden drop-off. If you can keep your podcast absolute maximum of 30 minutes, ideally about 20 minutes, that seems to suit a lot of people who...
Okay, then I'm going to sign off now. Bye, guys.
20 minutes just seems to be the perfect length for podcasts where people have it on the drive to work or the walk to work or the cycle to work. For some reason, 20 minutes just seems to be one of those golden numbers.
What's the number for podcasts? Don't they tell you like the ideal podcast length is something like 40 minutes for some reason?
They do, but that's never borne out. And I've done podcasting with a lot of different companies on a lot of different kind of topics. I've always found 20 minutes was the one that really did work.
When I talk to people who were subscribing to our podcast, most of the people that listened to them when they were driving, listened to them when they were working. I know one guy who said, I listened to you when I shovel the snow. So I think that's the advantage that podcasts have. It's so
portable.
Portable. That's a good word.
Terry, I was gonna get concerned because I thought you said there's one guy that listens to you when he showers. I was gonna say, that's really weird.
I love listening to Terry while I'm soaping up. I'm not sure it's a great testimonial. Yeah, every time I listen to those guys, I shovel harder.
Our show after it, you might have wanted to take a shower.
I think the magic of a show like ours, we're not hugely successful. We're not massively successful. We're not vaguely successful in the terms of most things in terms of viewer figures. But that's not what we're about. We're about interesting conversations, and I think it's not about the size of the audience, about the engagement of the audience. And for me, this is perfect. I know we could do a lot more to promote it, but that's not what we're about. We're about having interesting conversations. We kind of want people to find it for themselves rather than push it on them. By the way, hello Jen, hello Kristin. You both jumped in late. Jen, what have you been up to this week? How's your week?
Good. I've been working on search engine journals, actually doing an SEO guide, so I've been working on some sections for that. So that's been a big chunk of my time so far this week.
Yeah, it's probably more fun than audits.
Yeah.
Although my audits tend to have a lot of the what to do and how SEO works anyway, you know, because you point out a problem, you've got to explain why it's a problem.
Yeah.
At least I do, you know, so I'll have a section, and if the URL structures aren't what I'd like, I try and explain what makes a good URL, which of course then includes things like, yeah, keywords are great, but you also want short. You know, short URLs are better than long URLs. With a keyword's better than not, but balance that against the short. Here's my suggestion.
Keyword, 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 not HTML.
Yeah. Oh, well, don't forget the query string, session ID, blah, blah.
The more parameters, the better.
I had a couple of conversations this week about parameters. It does seem a lot of sites, they're coming back.
Actually, last e-commerce site that I worked on, I was able to, I read something by Bill, and that's when it hit me, was I said, I'm going to put parameters in all the pages that I know are going to be duplicates, and then I can shut them all down using the parameter tool. In the past, we had to use forms and all kinds of other stuff. Google literally took every one of those and blew them up on us. So I figured I'll just play ball with them and use their tool.
Parameter handling? Yeah, good thing.
Yeah.
And that is an interesting one as well, because you can specify which parameters are active and which parameters are passive. And there's a lot of the times I've seen people say, oh, well, we don't want those getting in, so we ought to, you know, block them. If you're going to use the robots exclusion, don't use that on parameters most of the time, because if somebody can link using this parameter, and you've used robots exclusion, whether that's on page, no index, or whether that's robots text exclusion, it's not going to pick up the canonical reliably, and it's not going to pass any of that link juice because you've blocked it, you've killed it dead. It's always much better to use the tools, to use canonical tags to show the correct one, and, you know, let Google work it out.
That's why they developed those things. I remember when parameters were a really bad idea. Now I'm starting to think developers should be using that as a tool. Like all the sorting should be done with parameters on a shopping cart, easy to block.
The thing is, so many people don't understand how to use it properly. I bet the number of devs that would understand how to use parameters without it completely screwing up the entire site in Google are pretty small. So you always got to be dangerous. It's always dangerous if you're saying, oh, use parameters. I think they're a great idea because, oh, I heard Terry Van Horn said parameters are great. Google loves them.
Yeah.
If you understand HTML, if you understand HTML, you should understand parameters.
Oh, there's lots of devs that have no clue what they're doing with parameters.
About five or 6 years ago, Matt Cutts put out a video that said Google doesn't crawl URLs with ampersands and question marks in them. It's like, what? So a couple guys from IBM who are working for IBM on SEO developed an e-commerce platform that got rid of question marks and ampersands. And if they were using those, it would convert them to a series of hyphens. It was web fusion.
I'm still in favour of static-looking URLs and a well thought out strategy so that your site looks and has all the advantages of static URLs while having the advantages in content of being dynamic. You know, I think it's important because the ordinary user still struggles to type question marks and ampersands, and you never know when they're going to have, you know, somebody's going to write down a URL for them at work. All right, most of the time they'll just pass on your domain name, but there are always cases. There are always cases, and you have to think about them. And if you use parameters, it's very easy to change things as you go along and think nothing matters, and then of course you've got all these URLs where it's only the parameters that are different, and trying to redirect based just on parameters can be quite kind of tricky sometimes. So yeah, I'm very much in favour of static URLs. They're more user friendly. You can look at a URL with a folder structure and get an instant idea of the scope of the site. You know, this page is in this folder. Oh, there's a whole category for this, and that's in this, and the ontology there tells you a lot. And they've found in usability testing that ontology is picked up by people, even people you wouldn't normally expect to do so. It automatically starts categorizing your keywords by importance as well, because almost always the parent category is going to be the more competitive keyword, and the very structure itself starts reinforcing the siloing of your site. Hang on, let me. Oh, Kristin's chewing her finger here. What's she done? What have you done? You're still muted. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, no, I just I've got Slack going all the time. When one of my team members is like come up with suggestions for like how he should phrase things, and it was just funny. He's made a tip calculator for the Play Store, and it's really good. Like, I've used it. It's really it works really well. It's simple. Like, it does what it's supposed to do. And he's coming up with different things, and one of his ideas was the smart tip calculator is your weapon of choice. And I'm like, don't think you want to be associating that idea in people's heads, like, for them to like harm the help with their money.
It's funny how aggressive language has become. I mean, it's something I was saying recently. I'm going to have to get a little bit political for a moment, but there's been this terrible wave of attacks on the police, and this is at least in part because of police attitudes towards people they're supposedly protecting. And this is one of the things. I'm sorry, but even criminals are citizens, and they are supposed to be protected by the police, not shot dead by them. This is an important thing to realise. Protect and serve includes criminals. It's meant to include criminals. It's meant to include protecting and serving your community, knowing that there are criminals, and minimising the escalation, rather than being the escalation, which unfortunately some of the police forces seem to sometimes become. I do think it's this attitude of war on crime, war on drugs, war on this, war on... Look, in war, that's a whole different thing. These aren't civilians with an important responsibility. War is done by soldiers, and you expect people to die, and it's bloody and it's messy. You don't want war in a civilization. Nobody should be looking for war, and I do worry that this aggressiveness is something we need to curb and kind of pull back. Life isn't a war movie. It's not meant to be, and if you try and live it that way, it's going to get very messy and very unpleasant.
And the money that you spend militarizing the police force, you can spend training the same people on how to negotiate and how to de-escalate violence.
Yep.
To calm people down, to have them put guns away, to stop defending everything.
People often say, how do the UK police when they're not armed? They are armed. They are armed with a wicked sense of sarcasm, and you are far more terrified when you get pulled over of the sarcastic quip that the copper is going to give you, because he's had years to practice this. He's seen it all, so he has the perfect put-down line to start off with. That is far more effective, and I don't know. I see and hear so many reports that, you're pulled over for a traffic offence and the cop approaches you with his hand on his gun. He's already signalling that this is a confrontation. Body language-wise, that's the worst thing you could do. You're making the person feel threatened. They're going to behave in a threatened behaviour. And do you know why they're going to feel threatened? because you are deliberately threatening them. You are showing that you have a gun and are ready to shoot them. That is a threat. Come on,
Sorry, but I disagree. You know why?
Go on.
You and I come from a place where not everybody can just walk around with a gun, right? If I'm a cop, I'm thinking everybody who's in that car has a gun is going to shoot me. So
Well,
I
isn't
think
that the worst time then to start the
in
whole
the States
process off?
differently than they do in Canada and the United States. I've seen it. A cop in Canada does not approach me like the ones that I met in the United States approach me. It's a big difference, and that has a lot to do with it. The mentality, like, you know, it's the Fourth Amendment, you know, like they have the right to carry guns. Everybody does. So you got to expect shit's going to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, they wouldn't be approaching people with their hands on their guns if some people hadn't shot police officers that were approaching vehicles on traffic stops. So.
Right.
Oh, I don't know. I really would.
In the States, anyway. It doesn't really happen here.
But I just think it's advertising the gun. It's putting the emphasis on the gun, and therefore, if the criminals are armed, you're immediately making them think of their guns. I'm sorry, but you are. That's basic psychology. The minute you approach this as an armed confrontation, if the other side is armed as well, you escalate in that. Whereas, you know, we do have guns in the UK. You know, there are gun permits. There are a lot of restrictions on things, like, you know, if you carry a gun, it's locked away. It's locked away in the boot. You've got a gun safe in the boot of your car to transport those guns. You don't just walk around.
Yeah, but that isn't going to fly in the States.
We do have armed police, but they generally, you know, they don't go around brandishing them or drawing attention to it any more than, you know, they immediately reach for their truncheons. You want to that wasn't a euphemism, Jason. I didn't meant they're actual truncheons.
Look, all I'm saying is I was drinking a cup of tea and managed to scald my testicles with it as I stood up. So that's why I had to disappear. So apologies for everyone, but I'm back. The laptop's kind of working as well, and I just come back and hear that you're talking about truncheons.
The funny thing to me is that, you know, your Facebook profile still lists you as Chief T-Boy.
I am the Chief T-Boy.
And I'm thinking, if that's how skilled the chief is, that he manages to spill his own tea down his own testicles.
What can I say? I like drinking the stuff. I'm really good at making it. It's the balancing thing as I hold it in my fingers I'm a bit bad at.
Okay. We got distracted with.
Sorry.
It's warfare. That's how we got onto it. And it's a bit like when marketers all suddenly started quoting Sun Tzu's Art of War. And by and large, the people who quote the Art of War are the people you know wouldn't last 2 damn seconds if there was actually any kind of confrontational conflict. They're not good at it. You know, it's war games they like rather than actual war. And what you've got to understand is, you know, the thing that fascinates me about Sun Tzu is he was a general. He really was a war general. And most of Sun Tzu is about not fighting. It's about winning without having to fight, because if you fight, you are going to lose men. And these are people that, when you're a general, you've actually met, and you know by name. These are actual people that are going to die. So Sun Tzu is important, but it's not about glorifying war. The whole point was the guy was minimizing casualties. And that's exactly what, if you're going to start using war analogies in marketing or in policing or in anything else, that's the first thing you need to understand. A real warrior always looks to minimize casualties. And if there's a way of winning without fighting, that's the way they want to go right from the start.
Let me ask you a question, Ammon, because I missed a lot of this. There was a saying that was doing a round a number of years ago, and it was by a northern SEO that lots of people in here will know, a guy in Yorkshire from Ripon, David, and he used to have a saying, and he's very corporate now, so I doubt he'd admit this nowadays. Well, he would privately, but maybe not publicly. He used to say, you get to 100 and knock out the 99 ahead of you. Now, my question related to that is, I think that many people within the organic search game misunderstand what the challenge is. It isn't about beating Google. It's about beating the sites that rank above you. So I've not read Sun Tzu's Art of War. I'm aware of it. I've got it on a bookshelf just over there. Never looked at it once.
Oh,
but,
you should. It's good.
You know what? There's porn on. You know, I've got porn up. You know, there's always something better to do. You know, kick-ass torrents may be down, but I've found somewhere else to download dodgy movies from. The reality is that I think that the current breed of the majority of people who call themselves SEOs, not necessarily are, but believe they're trying to defeat Google. I think that's a mistake. I think they don't understand the challenge truly, and understanding the competition, the marketplace, or the vertical that you go into, war, if you want to use that terminology, is incorrect. Understanding who you're competing with, understanding who are fighting in those same battles, and the preparation that you do in those early days is the most fundamental part of modern day, and probably historical as well, is search optimization that there is. Am I wrong?
It's that old thing, isn't it, of the leopard coming towards the guys, and one of them shouts, "Run!" The other was, "You're not going to outrun a leopard." He said, "I'm not trying to. I'm just going to outrun you."
Exactly.
There is a lot of truth in this. Yeah, you don't have to beat Google's algorithm. You just have to do better than the competition are doing. Of course, you get things like, you know, this week where I'm looking at a relatively new entry in the property market. Now, you know, property has been a profitable game for a lot of people for a lot of years. There's no SEO that hasn't done at least 3 or 4 clients in the property market.
We've all shared Rightmove.
Pretty much. Yeah, I haven't done Rightmove.
Give it a week.
But Rightmove's one of the sites I had to look at, and of course, you know, there they are, 16 million pages indexed or whatever it is, you know. Not the biggest one. I've had 22 million pages. But, you know, you look at these and you say, right, you're coming into this market, you're not going to do this. You know, we're not going to immediately be able to compete on equal terms with somebody like Rightmove. But what you've got to do is look at their strategy, look at what they are investing in, and then choose not to go that route, because you're 5 years behind them and more. You're several £million of investment in terms of, you know, man hours and work and pay-per-click and advertising and all kinds of behind them on that path. What you want to do is take a different route, and particularly the route they wouldn't take or wouldn't think to take.
So I know I missed lots of the conversation. My apologies for everyone for playing catch up. Hello to the guys and girls who are there who I didn't say hello to before, especially Jen. Haven't seen you in years. How are you, darling?
Good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. Let me ask you a question, though, Bill. Sorry, I'm getting all my names wrong. My God, Ammon. Sorry, Bill. Hi to you as well, mate. I haven't seen you in even longer. I think 2006 in Vegas was the last time we sat down together.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, long 10 years. Wow, I feel really old. But I'm
really old.
Yeah, thanks. Piss off. What's annoying is that I haven't, you know, Ammon and I, we live within 5 miles of each other, I'd say, and we haven't even gone out and had a coffee, let alone a proper beer together, you know. I've moved down to the south coast, and, you know, I'm literally around the corner of this old git, and this is the biggest, longest conversation we've had in God knows how many years. No, I bumped into you at Brighton SEO, didn't I? Yeah. Anyway, so what I was going to say, let me ask, because you were just talking about when I burnt my testicles. Was you were talking about you had to crawl all these big sites doing the research, and that was when I lost you, as I managed to hopefully not irreparably damage this. That's me. That's one here. I've got some new ones. I've got. It still says Chief T-Boy on there, but on the back it's got little things like that, like that. But same thing. You know, I'll make it anyway. Sorry. What do you use to crawl when you've got those big sites? Do you, the old-fashioned tools were things like Xenu, Screaming Frog's a more modern version, but the same thing. But I find that none of them scouted these sorts of levels that we've got to work with nowadays. And over the last 4 or 5 years, I've been using Gigablast a lot. They're open source. Do you remember the old Gigablast search engine? They open sourced it, and it works really well. We've used as an SEO tool specifically for doing the link research and the crawling of the sites in that manner. I'm just curious if I'm the only one on the call. There's some old talent here, to put it in a polite manner.
Term.
Sorry?
Polite terms.
Polite terms. Thank you, Jen. Thank you, Jen. But there's some, none of us are as young as we used to be. I'm older than I wish I was. I'm not as grey as you, Aaron. But you know what? If I let this grow out, there wouldn't be much between it. So what do you use nowadays? Because I don't do the client SEO work as much as I used to, and I'm concerned. Am I getting behind the curve here? Am I missing all these new tricks? I just don't know nowadays.
Every now and again, I used to go beneath the radar and worry, I'm going to be behind the curve when I, come back out and start talking to people again. I've had my head down too long, in one project. And every single time, I was nowhere near behind the curve. I was still ahead of it. If anything, the things I'd thought of while in the niche were pushing further. And it surprises me at times. There's still a lot of threads on Creator Site from 2003 to 2005 that are absolutely valid today and still ahead of most people. And you think, well, hang on, we're talking 12, 13 years in some cases. And that's simply the oldest threads I can find, because forums I was using before that have, not even archived the conversations going further back, but going back to, I could go back as far as 98, to when I first was really starting to use the forums heavily, but you just won't find those forums anymore. Anyway, I still use Zenu, but I've got so many years invested in it, I know how to tweak the setup and leave it running on a spare machine overnight, and sometimes 16, 17 hours. I've got a decent broadband connection, so it can run 30 concurrent threads if I want it to without anybody else in the house being slowed down by it. And yeah, it's going to take a lot of hours, but it gets there. And if it's a really massive site, sometimes I don't need to go more than 3 levels deep anyway. I only want to get a snapshot, an idea of the scale of what I'm dealing with. And anything you can't get to in 3 clicks somehow through the site probably isn't that important anyway.
Agreed.
So yeah, so I still like Zenu. I still recommend it to a lot of people. Screaming Frog has its advantages. It's certainly a more polished tool. But I still say to people, look, Zenu is still free. It's still a very good tool, and it will still do 95% of anything the other tools will do, if you know how to read it. And just download it, use it. You will get the hang of it. It's very, very good.
I think it must have been like one of the original tools in our industry, if you don't count like Web Position Gold.
I don't knock Web Position Gold. Most of us started off in those days. I know I did.
Mm.
I never used Zeno. I wrote my own stuff, and now I use Screaming Frog, more because it puts everything into CSVs. Very easy to manage. Gives me a sitemap, and I like to be able to break down things by tag and see canonicalization. And if I want to see every page on the website, because sometimes you'll find the real crap is below the 3rd level, if that's as far as Zeno goes.
Terry, one of the things I agree with is not only, I'm of the view that you should grab everything, but not only is there potentially the crap there below those 3rd levels, but the nuggets of gold waiting to be found. And it's those nuggets, the ones that are ranking page 2, page 3, that just need a little bit of help to come to the fore, is where I think a lot of opportunity still exists. And quick wins, to be frank.
In honesty, you can go as deep as 10 pages of search results and find something that one little tweak will bring straight up to page 1 from page 10. And yeah, those are incredibly common things for a larger site.
Well, let me throw in then.
Tools is better for that though. If you're being able to see click-through rates, impressions, and that's where the real low-hanging fruit is usually.
Log files, always.
Yeah.
You know, I'm still a huge believer in log files. I still recommend that sites build their logging into a database. Apache has, you know, mod SQL and things like that that can let you turn your logs into a MySQL database, and then you can get any data you want that you can build up the SQL queries for. And
I agree with you there, Em, and I still pay for this. I've used it for as long as I can remember, well over a decade. I don't know how much longer than that. But Sawmill as a log file analysis tool, I've used forever and a day. Everyone uses a JavaScript implementation, normally Google Analytics, but you know, pWick and the various others as well nowadays. But raw log files are the gold, and a quick grep at the command line is an amazing tool to help you see so many things quickly. But that detailed analysis, again, maybe I'm just stuck in my ways, and there may be better products out there. But Sawmill is some of the best investments I've ever made. Learning how to use Gigablast, we were talking about Xenu just before. I still do have it. I can't remember the last time I used it. But Gigablast as a self-contained server, crawling just the sites I want to understand, I truly do think is amazing. And overall, those sort of two old-fashioned tools, because they're not in, they're not cool, they're not the tool of the moment. I don't think they ever have been of the moment, but extracting the data quickly in a meaningful manner, it's those quick wins, and the quick wins matter, especially with newer clients who want to see some returns sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and for any client that's struggling with budget, I always like to put forward a proposal that says, okay, well, let's do this in stages. We do need to do this, but I understand this is expensive, and it's, you know, so what we're going to do, we're going to do this, and when this hits this return, that pays for stage 2, and when stage 2 hits this return, that pays for stage 3. And it's amazing how easy a sale that becomes, because they're only having to commit to the small expense of stage 1, even though your contract points out that as soon as this has reached a set level, it will automatically kick in stage 2. But it costs nothing because it's paid for itself. You know, anybody out there that sometimes struggles to sell the big jobs, that's an easy way of doing it. Stagger it and make it pay for itself, because it all then feels like, you know, it's free. Which, let's face it, it's better than free. You know, SEO is one of those things that it should be generating a massive positive return on investment. You know, SEO is never a cost; it's always an investment.
Sure.
And unless you go with an offshore company, in which case it probably is just a cost.
Well, to be fair, every single one of this on the call is offshore to someone else. Jen's offshore to everyone in the US. Bill's offshore to everyone in Europe. Ammon and myself are offshore to, well, I don't even say which part of Europe anymore, are we, Ammon? Let alone anything else. But
well, we haven't been able to tow the island away. You know, the UK is still part of Europe. We just didn't want to be part of this federation that was building up.
Half the nation's happy, half the nation's very sad. I don't know which half you're in, but I'm not a happy bunny this time, this summer.
I voted exit.
We're on two sides of the same coin.
Yeah, it was one of those things. It was purely political, and the party that convinced me was the Remain campaign. I mean, they had months to make a good argument, and they came up with one argument that they used again and again. You'll be worse off.
I don't disagree that the Remain campaign focused on the negatives, whereas the Leave campaign was aspirational. The issue was, for me, the Remain campaign were honest, and the Leave campaign were talking about an aspirational aspect that was all bullshit and bollocks.
Yeah, but like
You and I are going to disagree on this, Sam.
Yeah.
You know, so it's
We'll
done.
have this conversation another time.
Yeah,
over
you
coffee.
won, mate. You won.
But yeah, it was one of those ones. Anyway, yeah. But we're not offshore. I mean, I'm absolutely sure of Bill. I'm sure of you. I'm sure of Jen. I'm sure. It's the companies you can't be sure of that are offshore. Yeah, definitely. You know, when people don't value their own time, it's probably worth what they're asking you to pay for it. If somebody is offering you SEO for less than you think an SEO should be able to monetize their own sites for, you know, if I spend a day and I'm a good SEO on an affiliate site, I should be able to make an awful lot more money for that day than some SEOs out there are charging for a day. And you think, right, you're not a very good SEO. You couldn't make more money doing something else.
Okay, Ammon, how do you define a good SEO?
That is a tough one.
Yeah, well, I'm not here to make your life easy. I'm not here to tickle your balls, you know. It's you've got the mic. How do you define a good SEO? It's an age-old question, 20 years old at least. I don't know the answer. I could tell you a crap one really easily. It's, you know, you sniff and you know straight away. It's like porn. It's really hard to define, but you know it when you see it. And the bad SEO.
It's really also very subjective because I could be a good SEO for one site and not for another. I think the part about not really understanding the business that you're trying to optimize their website, there's a lot of that goes on, and that's a problem.
Okay, rule number one of a good SEO. They know their limits. They understand that they don't know anything, which is one of the reasons why you will never find a real SEO expert calling themselves an SEO expert. You will never find that. And anybody who is going around, you know, SEO expert in their title or in their description on a social profile, they're not. Chief T-Boy, exactly. It's one of those. So first of all, they should know their limits. Nobody knows everything. When you asked Matt Cutts a question, he often had to go and ask other people. This is a senior engineer who had been one of the first, 10 employees of Google. He knew almost everything that one person could possibly know, and he still had to ask other people. And he's on the inside. And he's on some of the committees that pass these things. So, if he has to ask, nobody else is going to know everything.
Of course, if people like Jeff Dean to ask, which if I had the chance and the opportunity, I would ask him too.
Well, let me ask the panel, for want of a better word, old friends and new acquaintances who will become old friends in time. Content and links. I actually think it's relatively simple. Your site's good enough and you have enough of the right style links. That's probably the thing that's changed most over the years. That hasn't changed since day dot. Well, day dot of Google. We ignore the days prior to that, really, and to the Excites and Lycos, etc. Other than that, and the concerns of the bad stuff that's out there, is there any major changes that have occurred?
I think there's changes on the quality of content that people are able to get away with now. Like, way back in the day, you could, stick anything through an article spinner and, like, the worst kind of article spinner, and it was going to rank as long as you knew SEO. Now, I see a lot of the SEOs are falling down on the content aspect of it that they wouldn't have stumbled on, like, years and years ago.
At least 2/3 of the blogs that I review for outreach, I won't post on it because the blog by Google looks like a guest posting blog. In other words, they're selling those.
I think links have changed immensely, and it's not just the style. I think Google's approach to links has changed. Once upon a time, certainly SEOs expected that Google was going to look at all links. It weighed them differently, but it was going to look at all links. And one of the things that it seems from the outside, I mean, it could just be weighting to zero, but it seems like Google now has enough links. It knows there's enough links out there that it doesn't have to count all links. It doesn't have to give even an iota of influence to every single link. It can be fussy. It can say, right, I'm only 60% sure on this link. I'm not going to count it either way. I'm going to just look at the ones I am 80% certain are good as positives, and I'm only going to look at the ones that I am 99% certain are spam as negatives. And it's got enough links out there that just doing that still works. And I do honestly say that when I'm looking at sites' backlinks, I think less than 10% of their links are doing anything for them. And I think a lot of sites are going around, massive disavows of links that, do you know what, I'm certain these didn't count for a thing in the first place. If it makes you feel good, go for it. But I would honestly say that most sites out there, only 10% of your links are doing anything at all.
So if you're a new site, and again, it's a sort of follow-up questions, PMQ style. If you're a new site starting out and you don't have a backlink portfolio so no history and nothing there with you, we know that we've got to create links. We covering Jen's point, sort of moving on from what I said before. The quality of the content needs to be good enough. It can't be the crap that we got away with in the past. We know that links matter. We know we need them. We know that many things are frowned upon. We also know that I'm probably at the dirtier end of the spectrum historically. Maybe not now, but historically, yeah.
The man photographed as a can of spam. No.
With Brett and Danny, I was having a hug with Brett Tabke and Danny Sullivan at the time. Do you remember the old
in a costume as a can of spam? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. That was the old when Brett was still doing mini pub cons over in London at the City York pub in Holborn.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
good days before it got to be another conference when there were no pitches, there were no speaking gigs. It was just networking. I love that. I miss that.
I miss it too, and but times change. I'm not going to say. I'm going to be fair to Brett. He's built a great business, and he'd have been foolish not to take it forward to the levels that he has. However, those informal get-togethers, were they good fun? Of course they were. Were they the best part of the industry at the time? Yeah. Overall, I wish they were to make a return. However, no one does them regularly, and there's probably a reason for that. And the reason is that there's more money doing it in a more formal way. We can see with the likes of not just PubCon, but Ungagged and a myriad of the dozens of others that are out there as well. But hey, old times reminiscing.
I think content for links doesn't make sense. Content because you need it for the site makes sense. Making content just to get links has never made sense.
Oh, I'm going to have to disagree with that.
Terry. Terry's a good guy. Terry's right.
It has nothing to do with good or bad. It has to be. It has to do with understanding that those things are never last. They never last, and everyone else is doing them. I'd rather be doing stuff that other people aren't doing. Anybody can reverse engineer some, but
Terry,
to think of it yourself and build content yourself and get it on YouTube and promote it does more than creating links for guest blogs. I know that because I've tried both, and by far, making content that serves a purpose for the website does a lot more for your rankings.
Terry, we've never met, but I'm telling you now, you've got a new fan. I love you, Terry. You're so right. I've been
saying that for years. Ask him. This ain't new for me. Even when people were really touting links, ask anybody in the SEO dojo. Me and Dave were telling them they were wasting their time.
I am going to rain on your parade from a great height.
Hey, we disagree on more than this. That's fine.
Coca-Cola, their necessary content is the ingredients. How many people do you think actually search for that? However, Coca-Cola have a history of doing brilliant advertising campaigns. People talk about these all the time. How many people talk about the Coca-Cola polar bears?
Coke is like a verb.
That's not a fair comparison.
Actually,
I agree.
I'll tell you what.
Ammon, shush, let me talk.
Links are the online version of the water cooler conversation.
No, they're not.
Links are about remarks. It's about being remarkable. This is why online marketers talk about Seth Godin's book, The Purple Cow, because remarks are everything. You've got to be remarkable.
You gave an example of a brand that's existed for so long that we even believe that Father Christmas is in the form of the Coca-Cola version.
It's also a noun.
Now, but the question was, what do you do with the new site? Coca-Cola existed long before the internet or the web. A brand new real estate agent style site like the client you've got, or but brand new. I don't know who they are. I don't want to.
Can't tell you because obviously I'm about to tell them.
But take that as an
Give me a different example in a different field, but I'm not working.
Okay, printers. Printer ink back in the day was the thing. So talk printer ink.
So you're not going to sell printer ink the normal way. It's, you know, most people are going to buy it on cheapness or reusability or greenness, you know, the standard sort of stuff. If you want to get links to the site, you've got to be doing something different. Now, that can be done in the quirky content. So you would, one of the things I can see is this wonderful joke site about a master ink craftsman who is blending these inks and the lengths he goes to. And I mean, you make it completely deadpan, over the top, so you're not sure, not 100% sure, is this serious? Is this guy really discerning between 3 different lemons just for a sniff of this, you know, one drip in 1,000 parts of ink? Is he serious about this? Can he really smell this ink and tell you, yes, this is Indian ink from blah, blah, blah. You know, you make it over the top.
I don't disagree with the principles of what you're saying. However, that's going to gain them, if you're really good and really lucky and have the prevailing wind, 200-300 links from the piece that might have taken you 3-4 months to build, develop, craft, hone. And that's without the research stages of coming up with the story. Because the problem with needing the muse is you haven't got it when you need it. How that's not going to touch anywhere to deliver a ranking for the phrase of Canon random whatever printer blue ink or whatever it may well be. What do you do with that new site? With an existing site?
It does, because what we need to do, you've got to attack this on 2 fronts. You've got to build up the brand authority, because these days that's so important. I occasionally look at things, you know, you look at Moz's domain authority and page authority. If you see a site where the page authority is higher than the domain authority, you know that there is artificial link building going on. You know it. You can just then, you know, look for it. Normally, the domain authority will be significantly higher, you know, just a few degrees, but significantly higher than the page authority. So you want to build up that domain authority, and that's why those quirky campaigns that build up the brand are important, because at the same time you then do the content specific stuff. And this is where you talk in depth about a particular printer and what its known ink problems are. You know, what are the temperatures of the nozzles? Is this one of the ones, for years, what's the make of printer? There was one make of printer that, I mean, they were known as the best printers for a long time, but what was the secret was actually their ink and their ink heads. They heated the ink.
Like that.
It wasn't Hewlett Packard, it was, you know, one of the other ones. But they heated the ink differently. Their ink was more liquid when the inkjet sprayed it. And being able to talk about those kind of things matters. If you can narrow it down, what are the specific issues of this printer? For a start, who buys this printer? What kind of printer is it? Is it one of those all-in-ones? So it's almost always a small office. You're not going to be used by less than, you know, 10 people or more than 20. Is it one of those ones that's a very small office? You know, it's usually 1 person to 4 people. Is it one of those ones that's a corporate one? You know, it's a heavy-duty machine and it's probably got 100 users. Knowing those kind of things lets you craft content that talks to the specific use case, and that's something, if you look around, if you actually go out and look at some of these ink sites out there, none of them are doing, and that's why it works. You're talking to the customer in that customer's own terms and understandings, and you're relating to them and their specific needs. But yeah, it's two-pronged: brand and specifics.
That was more or less what I was saying, Ammon, that it was a lot more about building brand and just getting visibility rather than getting links, right? It's about building visibility, not links and PR, because really, I don't think they have the push that they used to. That's, probably a lot of people don't agree, but they're probably link builders anyhow, so what do they know?
The majority of agencies outside sell their wares and there to deliver that brainstorming. So they sell their time on the brainstorming and some link acquisition to boost those stories directly. I don't think that's the best way for most organisations to go. However, what are the alternatives? And so far, although I've enjoyed every second of the conversation, a great answer hasn't been forthcoming.
Well, we will have to carry it on in the green room or another week because we are out of time this week. But we do always keep chatting after we go off air, so feel free to stick around, Jason. For everyone watching out there, thanks for joining us again. We will be back next week, no doubt. Until then, take care.